Hello everyone, we continue with Chapter 2, Part 5, June 1865. The compound was alive with noise and movement. I passed several soldiers in the halls, each one of them excited about something. This is... said Ito, this is unconscionable. Never in all my... Ito? Is something wrong? Yes, I'd say everything is wrong. Why should I be made to bear my skin in the same room as those savages? Ito's explanation was anything but. Is there something going on today? Ito did his best to collect himself, shakily adjusting his hair and clothing before he spoke. A supposed doctor that Kondo met during the Shogun's visit has come here, said Ito. He's conducting physical examinations. With a disdainful sniff, he glared pointedly across the hall toward the area he'd just left. The men were getting physical checkups, that much I knew. Given my particular situation, I'd been exempted by the captains, who had also given me special instructions to stay away. That hairless monster, said Ito. He demanded that I remove my clothes in front of everyone. When I refused, as any decent man would do, he attempted to remove them himself, by force. And the rest of them just stood there. What sort of uncultured savages are they? The savages seemed a bit strong. At any rate, perhaps I should go see just what a physical entailed. I was a doctor's daughter after all. What's this doctor's name? I believe he called himself Ryojun Matsumoto, said Ito. What? Wait, Dr. Matsumoto? When I'd first come to Kyoto, my plan had been to try and find Dr. Matsumoto. My father had told me that I could rely on the man if I ever needed anything. Unfortunately, he'd been away on business when I'd arrived, and after that... I'm going to go watch the physical exams. There was no time to waste. Oh my, so you want to see those savages? Said Ito. What peculiar taste. Is this it? I could hear loud voices from inside. Oh. The scene froze me in place. All right, next, said Dr. Matsumoto. At last, my turn, said Nagakura. Check this out, Doctor. What do you think? You're looking at the amazing product of years of training. Your body's fine, Shin, said Todo. I think it's your head the doctor ought to be taking a look at. What's that? Said Nagakura. You say you want me to beat the daylights out of you? You're fine, Shinpachi Nagakura, said Dr. Matsumoto. Move along, next. Whoa, hold on there, Doc. You gotta get a good look at this. No, you're quite fine, said Dr. Matsumoto. Healthy as a horse, and I've seen quite enough, thank you. You're holding up the line, Shinpachi, said Harada. Get moving, all right? I'm just saying, said Nagakura. I don't really think you've had time to fully examine. A medical examination is for finding problems, not showing off, said Saito. Now move. It wasn't difficult to see why Ito had been so desperate to escape. I couldn't imagine him as part of such a display. You need to take better care of your digestive system, said Ryojun Matsumoto. Here, take this after every meal. Looks like I'm out of medicine. I was waiting outside when Matsumoto stepped out of the room where he was conducting the examinations. Excuse me? Yes? He looked at me for a moment, his eyes narrowed in curiosity. Well, said Matsumoto, I need to fetch some more medicine, so perhaps now's a good time for a break. Can you give me a hand? Oh, yes, of course. What luck! Dr. Matsumoto? Ah, doctor, said Kondo. Hello, Yukimura. Kondo appeared just as I was preparing to introduce myself to the doctor. I see you found her already, said Kondo. Yes, thanks to you, said Matsumoto. What? I was utterly lost. Dr. Matsumoto laid a gentle hand on my shoulder. Chizuru, I came here to see you. Kondo told me that Kodo's daughter was staying with the Shinsengumi. Oh, I see. I knew Kodo and Matsumoto were acquaintances, said Kondo. So I thought perhaps Matsumoto might be able to give us a clue as to his friend's whereabouts. I looked him up as soon as he returned to Kyoto. The Shinsengumi had their own reasons for wanting my father found, but Dr. Matsumoto's appearance was still cause for joy. Thank you, both of you. They smiled. Dr. Matsumoto went on to explain that he had just barely missed me when he'd left for Edo as I came to Kyoto. He'd received all my letters, but once he'd finally returned, he had no idea where I'd gone and consequently couldn't come find me. Kondo's mention of my presence had taken him quite by surprise. I'm sorry that I missed you, said Matsumoto. You must have had a rough time of it. Is there anything you need? No, I'm doing all right. So, Dr. Matsumoto, about my father. His face took on a grim cast, and before he even spoke, I knew what his response would be. Unfortunately, I know no more about where Kodo might be than you do. I see. The defeated tone of my voice surprised me. I suppose on some level I had believed that Dr. Matsumoto would have some sort of miraculous revelation about my father. Foolish of me, of course, but that didn't make the truth any less devastating. Kondo simply nodded. I hear you've become involved with the treatment, said Matsumoto. You know what I mean, don't you? Kodo's experiments. Yes, I knew what he meant. The experiments my father had conducted with some strange concoction that could make people go mad. Please tell me about it. I want to know everything my father was doing. He nodded. Kodo was working with the Shinsengumi under orders from the shogun to create what were called Furies. Furies are humans with nigh demonic strength and speed and phenomenal healing abilities. Furies. It was the first time I'd heard the word. The doctor paused for a moment to look at me, then continued. The substance that transforms normal men into these furies is called the water of life. In China, they call it Sanan. In short, it grants immortality. Furies, water of life. It sounded more like something from a fairy tale than real life. But there was something in the tone of Dr. Matsumoto's voice that said he was telling the truth. I've already heard about how it makes you strong and hard to kill, but doesn't it cause so much pain that it makes most people go crazy? And even if you survive that, then even the smell of blood can make you go crazy again. Dr. Matsumoto nodded slowly, then pinched the bridge of his nose with thumb and forefinger. He looked very tired. So you know about that too. Yes. They were human, but not human. Perhaps they were something entirely different now? I couldn't see how this water of life could ever be used for good. Even if it had healed Sanan's arm, he'd suffered greatly in the process. Why? It came out more a moan than a question. My father would never want to ruin the life of another, but because of what he'd done, people had suffered. Some had even died. Why was my father doing this? But it wasn't just my father. I was sure no one involved had wanted such a terrible outcome. Perhaps that is why Kyoto left, said Matsumoto. His conscience would no longer allow him to continue. But the water of life was an opportunity given to us by the shogun, said Kondo, to help strengthen the Shinsengumi. The doctor only shook his head. It was an experiment, said Matsumoto, and it has failed. You should put it behind you. I'm sure the shogunate has abandoned it as well. Kondo frowned, perhaps unhappy that Dr. Matsumoto would question the shogunate's original decision. You've seen what happened to the men it was tested on, Kondo. It cannot be allowed to continue, said Matsumoto. This experiment is inhumane, and you know it. Said Kondo. He gave a non-committal grunt and fell silent. I was sure Kondo knew just how dangerous it was to use the water of life, but the shogunate had come to him with a request. Perhaps he was unable to refuse, even if he wanted to. Silence fell like a thick blanket. It had grown almost unbearable when an outsider has no right to object, said Sanan. Sanan? He was especially pale, which seemed to be one of the consequences for being active during the day. Is it okay for you to be upright now? Sanan, you look pale, said Kondo. Don't worry about me, said Sanan. He bowed quickly, his mouth a compressed line, and turned to regard the doctor with a cool gaze. We use this treatment effectively and at our own discretion, said Sanan. It's dangerous and far too strong, said Matsumoto. We have continued Kyoto's research, said Sanan. I am, as you can see, living proof, so to speak. Sanan did indeed prove it was possible to drink the water of life and retain your sanity. It just wasn't easy. Perhaps you're right, said Matsumoto, but one success hardly means you have unlocked its secrets. I respectfully disagree, said Sanan. With continued research and modification, we will have many more successes and fewer casualties. This isn't a matter of fewer casualties, said Matsumoto. It's a matter of casualties, period. It isn't worth the deaths of any more of your men. The men who have given their lives are the foundation of our work, said Sanan. I won't allow them to have died in vain. But, said Matsumoto. All right, that's enough, said Kondo, from both of you. Why don't we discuss this some other time? It was my private opinion that they were unlikely to agree, no matter what time they discussed the subject, but I felt it would be polite to keep that to myself. Very well, said Dr. Matsumoto. There seemed to be very little in the way of common ground between them, but I could see the merit of both their arguments. Likely Kondo had as well, and had chosen to end things before it got unpleasant. If you insist, Kondo, said Sanan. Sanan's face betrayed nothing of what he might be thinking, even when the corner of his mouth quirked up into the beginning of a smile. He bowed once more and left as swiftly as he'd arrived. Kondo cleared his throat loudly. So, how did the exams go? Yes, said Dr. Matsumoto. About that. Dr. Matsumoto's face took on the look of someone about to discuss something exceedingly grotesque. Nearly a third of your men are sick or injured, or both. What? Impossible, said Kondo. It is not only possible, Kondo, it is the truth, said Matsumoto. What on earth have you been doing to these poor men? Cuts, lacerations, bowel pain, the entire place is lousy with, well, lice for one. Are you serious? Said Kondo. First, you need to set aside a room dedicated to medical care, said Matsumoto. Sick men can be sent there. Second, you need to clean this place up, otherwise I won't be able to help you. I see, said Kondo. Well, if the good doctor says so. And so we were ordered to clean the entire compound. The captains complied, although they certainly seemed less than enthusiastic about the idea. The following day, Dr. Matsumoto returned for an inspection. Well, you've certainly cleaned this place up, said Dr. Matsumoto. He looked pleased, if not a little smug. It better be. We busted our asses, said Nagakura. Yeah, except for Soji, said Todo. The only thing his ass busted was a chair. Doesn't seem fair to me. Can't blame me if Hijikata's an overprotective old woman, said Okita. Oh, shut it, said Hijikata. You can run around all you want soon as you can go a day without coughing up a lung. If Hijikata had any actual concern for Okita's health, his face showed none of it. Nonetheless, said Saito, a clean home is a nice change. True, said Hijikata. The place looks different. I guess I could get used to this. Well, said Harada, maybe we should clean every day then. Great idea, said Nagakura. Make sure you do a good job, Heisuke. Me? Said Todo. Whoa, hold on a minute here. You've got the most energy, Shin. Don't think you're getting out of this. I'll help too. Good, said Todo. We'll all give it a shot tomorrow, all right? Hey, wait a minute, said Nagakura. When exactly did I tell you I was going to help? Shinpachi, said Hijikata, there's some trash over there. Go throw it away. We aren't starting till tomorrow, right? Said Nagakura. Heisuke? Stop running around like that, said Saito. We've just cleaned and you're already kicking up dust. I was enjoying their banter so much I almost didn't notice Okita quietly step outside. Oh? I could just see Okita and Dr. Matsumoto outside, walking off somewhere together. Where could they be going, I wondered. And I have a choice now to make. Either I'm worried about Okita, or it's not any of my business. I was worried for Okita, but he'd be fine so long as Dr. Matsumoto was with him. Yeah. After the excitement wound down, I excused myself and went back to work. I was outside sweeping, bamboo broom in hand, when he appeared. They make you do chores here, do they? What? The cool, bemused voice had come from behind me. It took only half a second to realize that it was a voice I'd heard before. Slowly I turned around. You have the pure blood of a demon running in your veins, and yet you run errands and clean up for a pack of humans? Said Chikage Kazama. Chikage Kazama, just as I'd suspected. His face was a mixture of surprise and sneering disgust as he looked down at me through cold eyes. I took the broom in both hands like a staff and stepped into what I hoped was a fighting stance. Well, what are you doing here? It was halfway between a disdainful laugh and an amused snort. You mean to fight me with that, huh? Your heritage hasn't blessed you with brains, I see. His tone was mocking, but his eyes were like two chips of ice. This was a dangerous man. What was I to do? I could hardly face him alone. Calm down. I haven't come here to fight. Not today, at least. I only want to know what, if anything, you have to do with Kodo. Kodo, that was my father's name, but why would he, of all people, mention my father? You want to know about my father? Father? You mean Kodo? If you're talking about Kodo Yukimura, then yes, he's my father. I see, said Kazama. I'd seen surprise in his face at first, but now an understanding seemed to have dawned across it. Unfortunately, my own confusion had only deepened. Why are you asking about my father? I lowered the broom, my situation temporarily forgotten, when... Trying to sneak into the enemy camp alone, huh? Said Hijikata. Well, not on my watch. Hijikata! He settled into a loose fighting stance, placing himself between Kazama and my pathetically ineffectual broom. "What are you doing out here in broad daylight?" said Harada. "Little early in the day to be picking up chicks, pal." "Get away from her," said Todo. "Harada, Heisuke." "I heard you yelling," said Harada. "Sounded like you were up to something besides cleaning." You all right, Chizuru? Are you hurt?" asked Todo. I nodded, relieved. "The Mibu's wolves can only fight in a pack, eh?" said Kazama. "Watch it," said Hijikata. I could feel the tension rising by the second, but it was Kazama who attempted to cut through it. "If you want to play, then I'm happy to oblige, but I'm here today simply to take care of some business. More specifically, to issue a warning. Stop trying to turn humans into demons." "What? Humans into demons? Was he talking about the water of life?" "Not your business," said Hijikata. "Yeah, what makes you think we're going to listen to a sleazebag who'd attack a girl in broad daylight?" said Harada. "Idiots," said Kazama. "Are you too blind to see I'm doing you a favour?" If he was trying to show the Shinsengumi kindness, it certainly didn't show on his face. "This is our turf," said Todo. "You better shut your trap before we gotta do it for you." The smaller the dog, the louder the bark," said Kazama. He looked away from the captains as if suddenly entirely uninterested in them, and fixed me with his cold gaze. "Kodo is with us now, Chizuru. Do you understand what that means? Your father has abandoned the shogunate." "What?" His mysterious smile gave me nothing in the way of explanation. "Why are you here?" said Kazama. "I suggest you think on that carefully." Then, with a slow, rippling motion, like a shadow slipping across the ground, he turned his back to us and vanished. What was happening? What were demons, and why had they come after me? My father was with them. On their side, he must have meant. Did that mean he was working with national imperialists? The inside of my head was a swirling mass of questions and doubts, but the one thing that most concerned me was, and here is another choice I have to make, what concerned me was either the demons or their interest in me or my father. So let's go with the demons. Who were these men who called themselves demons? What are these demons? Hijikata crossed his arms, his face dark. "After fighting them, I can say they sure as hell aren't human. Not by a long shot. He's skinny as a rail, but he can hit like an ox," said Hijikata. "Yeah, I'd say demon is a pretty good way to describe him." Kazama and his companions clearly had strength and skill far beyond that of most men. Perhaps they really were monsters of some sort. "Well, hell," said Harada. "If Hijikata thinks they're demons, then they've got to be demons." "Yep, he's the Shinsengumi's demon after all," said Todo. "Shut it, you two," said Hijikata. "This is serious." Their playful argument was familiar ground, but it gave me something to hold on to, a small beacon against the darkness. I felt myself relax, and a sigh of relief found its way to my lips.